welcome back to another episode of A Recent Study Suggests. I'm your host, Robert, and with me, as always, my co-host,
Sam.
You know, do you like how I say, and welcome back to A Recent Study Suggests, like we're just in the middle of a conversation? I've told you this before, that I like songs that begin with the word and. Mm-hmm. So like the very first word that they say is and, because it just makes it seem like you're just kind of jumping in the middle of that sentence, in the middle of that song,
right?
Just in the middle of the conversation. So that's why I like saying, and welcome back to Recent Study Suggests. Like you're just in the middle of it.
Like someone's just walking in the middle of our conversation?
Yeah. And I'm also like, at the same time, picturing, what's the first part of that sentence that I'm saying? Like, am I just saying like, the weather is fine and welcome back to Recent Study Suggests? You know, just like kind of random. Mm-hmm. But anyway, how does this podcast work? Basically, we scour the internet, making sure no stone is left unturned, looking for studies that a lot of the times have us asking why. Like, why is this study even a thing? Who funded it? How did it come to be? Really, these studies just get us talking.
Yeah.
We have all sorts of conversations about them, and we record them. We decided to record them.
Yeah, and I think it would be really cool to get you guys involved as well. And so if you ever come across a study that's weird or makes you think a little bit and question why it exists, you can always send it over to us, as we've mentioned previously.
Yeah, you can always email them to us at arecentstudysuggest@gmail.com. But enough explanation. Let's just get right into it. What study are we covering today, Sam?
So today we are talking about childhood crushes and the value of them.
Childhood crushes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, we found this article in the New York Times that talked about different, I guess, experts that had covered childhood crushes and, like you said, just the value of them, like what they mean.
So there was one professor in particular who did a study over children and adolescents about their romantic interests and if they really fall in love.
Do children really fall in love?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they do?
Oh, yeah, I would say so.
Is their childhood love any different than an adult love?
I would say so, yeah.
Like, what's the difference? What is a childhood love? What is an adult love? Like, is it just love? What changes? What do you think, if anything?
The reciprocation of it.
Reciprocation?
For sure. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of infatuation and idealizing what it's like. Oh, what if this person did like me back? And that kind of thing. But I know for me personally, I never expected my crushes to ever have a crush on me back.
Why is that? That sounds kind of sad. That sounds kind of like you didn't have confidence in yourself, or did you just...
Well, I guess it's because I learned that just because I had a crush on someone didn't mean that they were going to have a crush on me back, because their behavior showed otherwise. I felt in a lot of ways I was a bit ahead when it came to crushes and romanticizing these boys that I was interested in as a child.
Okay, what do you mean by ahead? How could you have been ahead of someone? How old were you when you had your first crush?
When I had my first crush,
yeah, I
was 6.
And do you think that makes you ahead? Do you think 6-year-olds...
Oh, no, I don't think that my age meant that I was ahead. It was just my feelings that made me more ahead. Because I was more aware of it. I was in tune with what I was feeling.
Right, but that would come with like your age. So when would you have said that you're at pace or that you're average? So you're 6 years old and you think that you're ahead on your feelings, but you know, it's because you're 6 years old.
Right. So when did I feel like my feelings matched my age?
I'm saying, why do you think that you were ahead at 6 years old? Do you think 6-year-olds now should have the same feelings that you had at 6 years old?
I don't necessarily think that they should have the same feelings as me.
Because I think that's a weird thing to say, that you were ahead at 6 years old in your feelings.
I guess it's because nobody talked about it
when
they were 6 years old. Maybe they did feel the same way. Nobody was talking about it, though.
Yeah, you said you got used to the fact, or that you accepted the fact that none of your crushes reciprocated. But did you ever say anything to them?
I didn't.
You know, maybe they did reciprocate, but you
right.
never talked to them about it.
I think that has a little bit to do with shame as a child. Yeah. And this study kind of talks about that too, how the way that adults react to childhood crushes can determine the way that children act. when they have a crush? Like, do they feel like they need to conceal their feelings? Do they feel like maybe it's a bad thing to have a crush on someone?
I think it might have to do a little bit with shame, because I'm thinking now, 6 years old, I guess, when you had your first crush. If I was 6 years old and told my mom that I had a crush on someone, I would tell her, but I think her reaction would be kind of making fun of it, and so I would feel that I couldn't tell her subsequent crushes that I had. Because I would feel like, oh, well, maybe it is a little silly of me to have a crush on someone.
In what ways do you think that your mother would have made fun of it? Like, what would she have said to you to make you feel bad?
She wouldn't make me try to feel bad, but she would kind of be like embarrassing about it. Maybe tell like other people, and they would laugh, and so their laughter or her laughter would make me feel like, oh, maybe this is silly, this is kind of wrong. Not necessarily wrong, but like just like I would feel embarrassed, I would feel bad about myself, so I wouldn't share it with my mom in any other crushes that I have. Yeah.
Or kind of tease you and be like, oh, how's your girlfriend? And how was your girlfriend at school today? And like makes you feel bad. Like, don't talk about it. That's another thing that's also mentioned in this study is the way that parents talk about crushes when you're a child. So I feel like children can fall in love. You asked me that. Do you think that children can fall in love?
I don't know if because it's just like, kids, they're not swayed either way by like their parents, because they're just kids. They're just growing up. They're kind of just living life with no worries. So I feel like that love maybe is different from an adult love, but like I don't know if necessarily I think that a child has like the emotional capacity for love.
Really?
Right? Because like they're just living no worries. So what they're just feeling is just, it's kind of like excitement maybe, and it's like their first experience at that feeling.
Well, maybe that makes it more genuine.
It could. I could be completely wrong. It can be more genuine. I guess my answer would be, I don't really know exactly what my answer would be. I'm kind of leaning towards no, but also like that just seems kind of like
maybe that's naive. Because you never fell in love as a child.
Yeah, I guess not. Like, we were talking about this study beforehand, and you were talking about how many different crushes you had. And I can only ever remember having a crush on one person in, like, kindergarten. I think, what is that, 5 years old? 6 years old?
5 or 6, yeah.
And that's it. And we'll get into why I didn't have as many crushes as Sam a little later. But, yeah, I guess my answer would have to be just no. But I want to say yes, just so I don't seem like a bad guy. Or like someone who's like incapable of love.
Oh, well, I mean, your first crush was when you were 5 or 6, so it's kind of hard to say when you're 5 or 6 years old that you've fallen in love.
I feel like a lot of people don't take that seriously. A lot of parents, like, if your kid said to you, "Mom, Dad, I love this person," they'd be like, "Oh, that's cute. That's Or
they'd be like, "No, you don't. Don't say that." If they were my parents, they'd say, "I'm gonna put pica in your mouth." Or I'm going to get the belt.
What does that mean, putting pica in your mouth?
Pica. Something spicy so that I never say that again, so it burns my tongue.
They would try to do that? They would threaten you with putting something spicy on you?
I was always threatened that, but it never happened. But it always instilled fear in me.
So you did tell your parents that you had crushes?
Yeah, I would tell my mom, like, oh, I think so-and-so is cute or whatever, and then I'd be reprimanded somehow. Like, don't say that, I'm going to put pica on your mouth. I'm going to spank you.
I wonder what she thought would happen, or what was bad about you thinking someone was cute.
I don't know. I really don't. And I think that this kind of ties into our first episode, where I hid my relationships from my mom and my dad when I was older, because as a child, I thought that having crushes was bad.
Funny they mentioned that, because this study also talks about like how you talk to your kids when they first express they have a crush could impact how they behave when they're older.
There's a section in this article that talks about validating children when they have crushes. So instead of brushing aside their childhood crushes, say something like, "Oh, so you have some special feelings for that person," and that can invite the child to open up. I never had that kind of reaction as a child. Being told that you're going to get pica on your mouth is very different than being told, "Oh, so you have some special feelings for that person." So normalizing it is very important, and that's something that this study talks about.
Don't kind of just write off the feelings, kids' feelings, that is what they're feeling for the first time, so that's just how they express it. They don't necessarily know anything better, have an adult conversation with you about feelings. So like if you kind of start talking about them, kind of let them know that it's okay to have these feelings and to talk about them, then, it's kind of like the same way of like maybe your kid doesn't like broccoli.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're expressing that they don't like broccoli. You wouldn't be like, oh, that's silly. That's silly that you don't like broccoli. Or like...
No parent would say that's silly. A parent would say, you're going to eat it anyway. Mm-hmm. And then the child would start to cry and they're like, well, you're not going to leave this table until you eat that broccoli. So instead of invalidating their feelings or ignoring that they don't like something or they would prefer something else, only makes the situation more difficult to cope with in the future. Going back to childhood crushes, you said you only had one, which I find hard to believe. Do you remember what it was? Like, what was it about this girl that made you realize, like, I have a crush on this person?
I didn't say it was a girl.
I'm sorry. Oh, you're right. I did just assume. I'm so sorry.
No, it was a girl. I honestly do not remember. I guess I just thought that she was pretty. I guess. But it was kind of funny because I think another one of my friends also had a crush on her. And so we would kind of like play fight over her.
That's cute.
In kindergarten.
What does play fighting look like when you're in kindergarten?
Just play fighting. I don't know exactly how to describe it. We're not like... I guess it would be pushing and shoving, but we're not like serious about it.
So it would get like, physical. Would you like laugh about it though?
I think so.
Because play fighting when you're a kid is fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was never anything serious. We never got like sent to like the principal's office because we were like really fighting. Just kind of having fun about it.
So do you think that you kind of like determined a type at 6 years old? Like, okay, I noticed these features and I like those, and maybe that's why you didn't have crushes after that because you couldn't find another girl like her.
I don't think so. I don't think that's it because it's not. I guess it's not like her type was hard to find. I guess it was just a white blonde girl, and that's not really difficult to find.
My goodness, Robert.
But I don't know. As far as I remember, I didn't have any other crushes. Okay. Also, part of it too that we'll get into is that I didn't consume any like content with like adults like how you did, and so you had crushes on adults or anything like that because all I ever saw as a kid was cartoons, and we didn't have cable, so I didn't like I said, I didn't watch anything with like adults in it, so I never watched like MTV. Like we'll get into yours, so I never watched any of that.
Yeah, but were there ever any shows with kids who were a similar age to you that you watched?
Not that I remember.
Yeah, because a lot of the crushes, yes, I did have crushes on adults like Adam Sandler. We've talked about this. But also, I watched a lot of Disney Channel and Nickelodeon. And of course, there's teenagers and there's kids around my age. So it was very easy to have crushes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't watch any of that because I didn't have cable growing up. I would just watch like afternoon cartoons like when I got off of school or Saturday morning cartoons. And
there weren't any cute girls in those cartoons?
Did I have a crush on a cartoon?
Yeah.
No, I didn't have any. Because I feel like a lot of the cartoons are also like male-oriented. So like there's not really too many female characters or anything like that. So it's like superhero kind of shows or just stuff like that. There wasn't anything like with too many female lead characters or anything like that. It was easier. I think it's easier for you to find a crush because a lot of that stuff was like male oriented, like like boy bands was so popular. Cartoons were like
I didn't really watch too many cartoons growing up. I mean, I did, but I did watch a lot of Disney Channel and a lot of Nickelodeon.
So yeah, tell us about some of your first crushes. You said you first had a crush at 6 years old.
Yes. I remember that crush very vividly because I was angry at the end of it.
Was it a celebrity? Was it someone your age?
No, it was a real person.
Celebrities are real people too. They're just like us.
It was a person who I knew in person, I guess I should say. You're
someone
right.
your age?
Yes, you're right. Celebrities are people. I didn't mean to insinuate that I thought that they weren't.
If we have any celebrity listening, Sam apologizes.
Yes, I had a crush when I was 6 years old. His name was Ian, and he had long hair, and he had really big front two teeth. Like those are the teeth that he lost. Like those are the first two teeth that he lost, and they were bigger than the rest of his teeth. But I just thought he was so cute. He had freckles, and he had light brown eyes, and he had nice long hair.
You can really remember it.
I'm telling you, I remember very vividly. I had a crush on him. He was my first.
Yeah, I can't even remember that many details for my first crush.
I guess I remember so vividly because I wrote about this a lot.
You wrote about it?
Yes, because...
What do you mean, for like your newspaper?
No, not for the newspaper. Like, I used to keep lots of diaries And yeah, I'd write about him, and I'd write poems and stuff. I had lots of feelings as a child. But anyway, yes, I had a crush.
What would you write about him? Would you like talk about your future together? Would you just describe
how cute
him?
he was? Yes, I would describe him, like his hair, the color of his eyes, the freckles, all of that, the teeth. And I don't know that I told anybody, but for some reason I was like, okay, I know I like him, but I want to see if he likes me too, or if like I could take this a step further. Like maybe we could touch hands. Like that was the big thing. So one day I took a quarter from my house that I just found. I put it in my pocket, and our teacher would always read us a book, and we would sit in like a circle, or we would sit kind of on top of a rug, kind of like all over the place. And I intentionally sat close-ish to him, and I took my quarter out of my pocket thinking, okay, I'm going to put this down. And I planned it out in my head. I'm going to put this quarter down. He's going to pick it up and be like, oh, hey, Samantha, is this your quarter? And he'd be like, oh, yeah, it fell out. It must have fallen out of my pocket. And then he'd be like, oh, okay, here you go. And then our hands would kind of graze each other. And then he would feel the spark between us. And then he would then have a crush on me. And my feelings for him would be reciprocated.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it happened. That's not at all how it
seemed
happened.
like a really elaborate plan, though. I'm surprised it didn't work.
Yeah, right? It was destined to work in my head. But the day of, put the quarter in my pocket.
Were you nervous at all? Was this like sort of
I was so
excitement?
nervous. I was so nervous. My heart was beating so fast in my chest. Like I could hear it coming out of my ears. And so we're sitting down. Our teacher's reading. I sit close to him, close-ish to him. I took the quarter out of my pocket, and I wasn't paying attention to her the whole time. My teacher, from the side, like from my peripheral vision, I was aware of him the whole time. And then I saw him pick up the quarter, and without any hesitation, he put it in his own pocket. And I was so angry with him. And I said, hey, that's mine. He's like, I found it.
In his defense, it's a shiny object. I would have taken the quarter too.
What a jerk. I found it. And then after that, Robert, I did not talk to him ever again.
That's all it took? Him taking your quarter and the crush just ended like that?
Done. Those light brown eyes, those freckles, those big two front teeth, that long hair meant nothing to me.
Yeah, they all belong to a thief.
He was a thief. It was awful. I really felt like he broke my heart.
Because he didn't return the quarter to you.
He did not return the quarter. Our hands did not graze. We didn't have that moment that I had envisioned in my head. And it was ruined. And he eventually ended up moving to another school. And I remember there was one day during recess where everyone was like, Ian's back. And he came to visit. And I was just like, I don't care. I remember seeing him and being so angry. Like, how dare you show your face over here again? My crushes were very serious.
It seems like it. Yeah, you took them very seriously, but I guess they didn't work out.
No. And so after that was another reason why I just didn't like try. If I knew I had a crush on someone, I knew I had a crush, and that was it. Mm-hmm. There were always boys with long hair. I don't know why.
You had a type as a 6-year-old?
Well, that's why I asked you if you had determined a type at 6 years old, because I definitely did.
Did you know that you had a type at that age, or you just kind of thinking about it now, realizing that you had a type?
Yeah, before we started recording, I had just thought about it, like, wow, they all had long hair and like colored eyes. Mm-hmm. That's what I was into. You're
also talking about someone in a band?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So there was a band called Dream Street.
Dream Street.
Yes.
I've never heard of them.
You've never heard of them? Oh my goodness. Did you ever watch Jimmy Neutron?
Yes, I did.
There's a song.
The movie.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah. Okay. There's a song in Jimmy Neutron that I'm pretty sure Dream Street sings. Pretty sure. I'll have to look that up afterwards. But anyway, yeah, I had a crush on one of the band members. He was the youngest one, so he was the closest to my age. Naturally, I would always have a crush on the youngest.
Do you know what closest to your age? What does that mean? Was he like 13? Was he an adult? How old
he was like 6 or 7 years older than me. Actually, I know he's 7 years older than me. Okay,
so he was 13?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. but still the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And he had long hair. Of course he had long hair. Yeah, they were a band from like 1999 to 2002 or 2003. So that was enough time for me to have a crush. But I didn't really think much of it. And then when I was older, maybe around like 10 years old, that crush was significantly heightened because this boy, his name is Jesse McCartney. Oh, Jesse. He
came into your life?
I feel like my cheeks are getting red, even just talking about it. He started coming out with his own music, and...
Oh, hold on. So Jesse McCartney was in the band Dream Street?
He was in Dream Street.
Oh, okay.
And he started coming out with his own music when I was around 10 years old.
Okay.
And of course, I got his first CD. And of course, I thought that Beautiful Soul was about me. I was the beautiful soul that he was singing about. And then he also was in a show called Summerland. And yeah, it again just heightened my feelings for him. And that crush went on for a very long time. A very long time.
Okay, so from 6 years old till how old?
When did I stop having a crush on Jesse McCartney?
Mm-hmm.
When I was like 17.
So like a 10-year, 11-year crush.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that also kind of ties into our first question that relates to the study that we're talking about. Do you think that children can fall in love?
Mm-hmm.
I 100% fell in love with Jesse McCartney.
100%.
Oh yeah, no doubt
confident
about it. He was my first love.
He was your first love?
And I know that sounds really dramatic to say, but I can say that with confidence that he was absolutely my first love. And I was very vocal about that too. All of my friends knew that I was in love with Jesse McCartney.
So this one, I guess because you couldn't tell him face to face, you couldn't face that embarrassment. So you would tell other people about Jesse McCartney.
Yeah. People knew that I listened to all of his music and I watched Summerland, and there were some more embarrassing things that were related to my love for Jesse McCartney. But yeah, and my mom knew.
Your mom knew. And she didn't tell you that she was going to put pica in your mouth?
No, because...
She also liked Jesse McCartney?
No, because she didn't think anything would come of it.
Oh, yeah, okay. I guess that makes sense.
Which, that also broke my heart. I remember being in 5th grade, and that was also the time when I had my first boyfriend, and I remember saying in front of him that I was going to marry Jesse McCartney. Mm-hmm. And I remember his friends teasing him like, oh, you hear this? Samantha's going to marry Jesse McCartney, not you. And I was just like... Yeah,
this 5th grade relationship isn't going to last forever.
Yeah, I knew that. I was just like, this is right now, and this is okay. But, like, I'm going to marry Jesse McCartney.
Yeah, I'm just waiting until I catch up to Jesse's age.
Basically. And you know what? That was my thinking as a child. I always thought that, like, celebrities would stop aging, and I would continue to age, and I would catch up. And then we would fall in love. Which I definitely thought would happen with me and Jesse, but obviously did not. Which is fine. I'm not mad about it.
Just a little bit upset, a little bit disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
No, it's okay. But you never had that where like you were in love. You felt like you were in love with a celebrity.
No, like I said, I never watched anything with like adults in it, or because you had cable, and when you got CDs, they come with booklets where you can see the artist, so you could see him. Oh yeah. There was nothing like that I ever consumed. Like I didn't necessarily listen to bands with many females in them. So even if I did get CDs, I didn't see any of them. I didn't have cable, so I never watched any of those kid shows with like a bunch of people in them.
Did you ever get those magazines like Teen Beat where you'd get like all the hot goss about the celebs?
No, none of that. I was never interested in any of that because like I grew up in just like a Spanish speaking household, so I never got any celebrity news or anything. I was never interested in that. Right. So it was just me watching cartoons. That was my what I was consuming, and that I never had a crush on a cartoon because that to me that was just weird, I guess. I don't know. Did you ever have a crush on a cartoon?
Yes.
Yes.
Here's the thing, I had so many crushes as a child.
You had a lot of feelings, it seems.
I had so many feelings, and I think it made my childhood a bit more interesting too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I had crushes. I don't know who was the first cartoon character that I had a crush on, but I definitely had a crush on Peter Pan. and Jack Frost, but he wasn't a cartoon character. It was like those puppeteer ones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you... I don't know who like produced these movies, but there were a lot of them where they were like puppeteers, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer's like that, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and then there was a Jack Frost version.
Mm-hmm.
And that Jack Frost, oh my gosh, there was something about him. I was just like, oh, Jack Frost, I would turn into like Samantha Frost for you, not like this one chick who isn't willing to change her entire life for you. Like,
what's the story of Jack Frost? I also don't know. I know nothing about Jack Frost.
To be honest, I don't even really know because I was so young. I haven't watched Jack Frost in a very long time. But Jack Frost, he kind of brings winter.
Mm-hmm.
And in the version that I watched, he was able to talk with some godlike figure so that he could go down to Earth. And when he went down to Earth, people could see him because as Jack Frost, nobody could see him because he was just in charge of the weather,
mm-hmm.
or at least the winter. And so people could see him, and he ends up falling in love with a woman, and he doesn't end up getting to be with her. She ends up falling in love with like a prince or a king or some kind of really handsome and highly ranked man. And then he ends up having to go back into the sky and controlling the winter, and I just felt really bad for him. And he had long hair.
He had long hair?
Yes, of course he had long hair.
I guess I should have known that.
Yeah.
That was your type as a child.
It really was. I also had a crush on, his name escapes me, but he's in Meet the Robinsons. He's the blonde boy's son in the future. He's got really cool swoopy hair.
Mm-hmm.
Again, long hair. My thing, obviously. It's kind of embarrassing when I talk about it. It makes me feel like I'm so silly when I say it out loud. But yeah, I had many crushes and they all had long hair.
Yeah, that's part of the thing. Like you just said, you feel silly talking about it. Kind of like, did you feel silly at the time? Like it's kind of like how like adults, they will just say like, oh, that if your child said that they love someone, that's kind of silly. They have like these feelings. They're kind of just like it's playful.
Mm-hmm.
They may necessarily take them serious. I feel like that's what you're doing right now too, by calling those past feelings silly.
I don't know. I guess I feel silly. What makes me feel silly is having crushes on cartoon characters.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think that now, as an adult, I would shame a kid for having a crush. I wouldn't be like, "Oh, how's your girlfriend doing? How's your boyfriend doing?" Like, I wouldn't tease them and make them feel bad about it. Mm-hmm. Like my niece, she's 7 now, but she was 6 recently. She's had crushes before, and I am very open to talking to her about it. And I'm never like, "Don't say that. Don't talk about having a crush," or I never tease her about it. So one of the things that this article talks about is acknowledging that it's perfectly okay and supporting kids' crushes. And so asking questions like, "Oh, how's so-and-so doing? Did you get to sit by them? That must have been fun." And things like that. Like I would always open conversation in that way with her. But there have definitely been other adults that I've witnessed say things that are like, "Oh, don't talk about that," and like suppress.
Mm-hmm. Like they somehow expect it to be like get sexual at like a young age or something.
And like as a child who had many crushes, I never thought about it in a sexual way. I never thought about like kissing. Well, maybe Jesse McCartney, but I never thought about like kissing someone or holding their hand. I just liked them, and I would have liked to have had nice conversations with them or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a kid, you didn't really know anything about that.
You don't really know what to do with those feelings.
Yeah, you just know that you do feel them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever? You said that you wrote about your first crush, the quarter boy. Did you ever write about like Jesse McCartney in your diary? Did I
write about him in my diary? Well, I used to write my name a lot, and often I would switch my last name.
I feel like that was a common thing
McCartney.
to do.
It was always Samantha McCartney, and I'd write it in different ways. Like, in the future, when I'm asked to sign something, here's how it would look if it said Samantha McCartney in cursive. I don't know that I wrote about him much, but he was definitely in my diary. Like, I had a picture of him.
You had a picture of him?
Yes.
Do you remember where you got this picture? Like, was it...
Well, yeah, this is also why I asked you, did you ever read or look into Teen Beat, like those magazines? Because I did. I would get them like maybe once a week. And often in the back of these magazines, there was like a collage or like full page photos of celebrities. And so there was a full page picture of Jesse McCartney in one of these. And of course I ripped it out and I put it was not really a diary, it was like a notebook, and I would write poems and songs and things like that. And his picture was in the back of it. And it was nice because the size of his head was almost like actual size, or close enough to the size of my head.
Where is this going? Where is this going?
So because...
Why was that nice?
So because his head was like the same size as mine, that meant that other parts of his face were the same size as mine. Like
what?
Like his lips.
Are you saying you kissed this picture of Jesse McCartney in your notebook?
I did.
You did?
I did.
I imagine you like putting on like lipstick or chapstick, whatever you had, and like kissing it, like to leave a mark on his lips. Let other girls who maybe stumble across your notebook know that he's taken.
I did have red lipstick because of like a Halloween costume. I think I was a vampire at some point, or a witch, and I had red lipstick, probably expired, and I would put it on. I didn't typically just wear lipstick, but for whatever reason I thought...
For Jesse McCartney you did.
Yes, I did. So I would put on this lipstick and I would kiss his lips. And see, it was a paper picture of Jesse McCartney, and I'm smudging lipstick onto it, which kind of has oil in it. And so eventually his face got really smudgy looking, and like the ink came off, and so it was kind of gross. So I remember being very sad when I had to retire that picture and rip it out.
But at least you got to replace it with a new one.
I don't think I did.
I'm glad you didn't.
But that didn't stop me from pretending that my pillow was Jesse McCartney.
What does that mean?
I had that sounds bad, but I had a circle-shaped pillow, which is, like head shape almost. And so I would pretend that the pillow was him, and I would kiss it as well.
You would also kiss the pillow? Yes. Thinking... Would you wear lipstick for this one? No,
because I didn't want to get my pillow all smudgy.
Yeah, you'd leave evidence behind on this one.
Yeah. But yeah, he was my first love. It made me sad that I felt such strong feelings for him, and he had no idea that I existed. Like, I remember being actually sad about that.
Did it make you sad when you found out that, like, you won't ever catch up in age with him?
I didn't mind that he was older than me.
No, of course not.
Him being 7 years older didn't matter. I was just sad that I was...
Nothing could get in the way of your love.
I was just sad that I was never going to meet him. But yeah, that crush went on. I bought all of his CDs. He came out with a CD like every 2 years, and then until he stopped. And like I said, I watched Summerland, and then I kept up with him. And then once he wasn't so public anymore, then those feelings kind of just died down. Yeah,
because you heard less and less of him.
Yeah. And so I was able to forget these strong feelings and redirect them to people who I knew in real life. But luckily, when it came to Jesse McCartney, I was so confident that nobody teased me about it. Not even my mom. But also, like I said, she kind of just knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere.
Well, for me, my first crush was in kindergarten. I guess I was 5 or 6. And the next crush I do remember having wasn't until like middle school. So there was really nothing in between 6 and however old you are in middle school. How old are you in middle school? 12?
Yeah. 12 to 14.
Yeah, so like another 6 years before I really had a crush on someone. But then that was like, going through puberty and stuff. There wasn't any just childhood crushes, just like those feelings that you can't necessarily express. So I feel like that's different. As I was saying earlier, like, can kids really fall in love? Like, I feel like, that's different. Different stages of your life is maybe different types of love.
I definitely think that you can fall in love as a child. Maybe it feels different as a child, but you can. That's not to say that their feelings aren't real.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm having issues with. Like, I do know that their feelings are real, but like, is it love? Because like, I can't remember what necessarily that crush feeling is like. I just know that I did have it, and so I can't imagine that whatever that kid is feeling is necessarily love. But I guess it is love for them. Because that's what they're feeling. That's they can't express it necessarily in the way that older, teenagers or adults express it as.
And yeah, this study kind of talks about that too. Like one of the experts says that more than likely what these kids are saying when they say, oh, I school was great and I love so-and-so. When they're saying that, more than likely they just mean I have a crush on this person. And in my case with Jesse McCartney, I would never say as a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old that I am in love with Jesse McCartney. It wasn't until I was 11 years old that I was confident. Because at that age, you got it figured out. And we kind of touched on, like, what do you do with those feelings of having a crush on someone as a child? Like, nobody really talks about it. And so maybe it's possible that the person that you had a crush on also had a crush on you. And one of the things that this article talks about is what to do with those feelings, or as an adult, how can you kind of encourage your child to have feelings, and it's okay to have those feelings. And what they mention is just allowing play dates so that these kids can kind of sit with those feelings and be okay with it and just let it fizzle out.
Yeah, because maybe like with your situation, your mom thought that it was going to somehow lead to something, like you were going to advance too fast.
Right.
But it really is just like, I like this person. I like who they are. And, it's not anything. As a 6-year-old, you're not thinking, oh, I want to be like intimate with them.
Right.
It's not that. It's just, I like this person. I want to hang out with them. They're fun. I like the way I feel around them. And I like,
Yeah.
It's innocent.
And it's a perfectly okay thing to feel. And ultimately, it could just turn into a really good friendship.
Yeah.
Like you realize, because you feel these feelings towards someone, and you're like, this must be a crush. But maybe it's just that you're interested in this person's personality. And you realize like, oh, yeah, I just want to be their friend. So yeah, they mentioned like there's options of things to do. One of them, like we said, was to allow your children to have play dates. Or you could do nothing, which in my case may have been better than being told that I'm going to get Pika in my mouth or get spanked with a belt.
You can just let the kid have the crush and, just, let them experience what, just the life.
Yeah. So basically, like, it's okay if your child has a crush and they express it to you. There is value in that. And it just allows them to then expand on that in the future and be okay with their own feelings and feel like validated.
Yeah, like they can talk about it, or like, yeah, that their feelings are real. You respect them, and it'll help them communicate with you better.
Yeah,
I think.
Also with boys, they mention this too lightly, that it allows them to feel like they're not masculine for having a crush, and it's okay.
But I'm not sure if I would want any kid to kiss their pillow or have a picture of someone in their notebook. Not sure how I feel about that.
What? What's wrong with that?
I don't know. To me, that's just a little weird.
It does sound weird, but it felt right. How dare you invalidate the things that felt right to 10/11-year-old me?
I guess on that note, we'll end that episode there. It felt real.
It did.
It did feel real. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at A Recent Study Pod. If you have your own suggestions for studies, you can email them at arecentstudysuggest@gmail.com. And be sure to rate us 5 stars, review us also on whatever app you're listening to us from, and share us with a friend. It's the best way to help us grow. And I think we've had a lot of listeners from multiple countries even, that is really exciting to us, and I hope we can continue growing.
Yeah. All right. That's it, guys.
Until next time.
Bye.